So you and I were just talking that the first time that I interviewed you was about 2.5 years ago.
Yes.
And you've been in the business how long total?
Like 4.5, 5 years now.
Yeah. So you were not in very long. And at that time, you were building I'm going to call it a traditional real estate business in a non-traditional way. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very active.
The reason that I wanted to do this interview, Temp, is I feel like people could really benefit from the way that you view the real estate business. And I feel like sometimes, Templeton, you start to hear similar things, right? You start to hear about these massive lead generation systems and these big teams, and there's nothing wrong with that because it works and you gobble up market share. But I think people will be really attracted to your interesting view of the two businesses that you're in. So would you just riff with me a little bit on your two businesses?
Absolutely, Coach. So as you said, I started on the traditional end. I really only had one lens to look through because I didn't know any other way.
Yeah.
I only would wear my realtor hat, correct? So I wanted to look for potential clientele that I could represent in an agency capacity. And I didn't realize there was this whole other investor realm where there was other options, creative options for homeowners and buyers and sellers just to solve a problem that they might have. In that, I mean, a lot of people would call that wholesaling.
Yeah.
So I learned what that was about 1.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I really just took to it because I saw an opportunity to create a massive amount of revenue with the same amount of effort, but also solve a consumer's problem. Because if I wasn't going to solve it, there's other big companies out there right now that are solving it. Open Door, OfferPad, Homey. So I said, you know what, I really need to learn this and create a two-pronged business. So that way when I sit down with a seller, I give them options. Here's the great news, guys. I'm one of the top listing agents in the state. So if it makes sense to sell retail, let's do that. And I can help you in a big way. Here's the other thing. If you want a cash offer today, you want convenience, you want to exit quickly and easily from this property, as is, no repairs, no commissions, I can also help you in that way. The key to this, though, is disclosure. Because I'm a licensed realtor, there's a lot of people that are unlicensed out there, and it can kind of be a muddy world on this wholesale side. You need to disclose to these sellers and make sure that they know all their options. And then I love it because now I can just display their options out for them and say, what's the best option for you? A, B, C, D, E. I have all these variables that I can plug them into and make it. So that was huge for me, and it pretty much doubled my revenue.
I loved that you saw the opportunity and capitalized on it. I think we get so busy being busy, I miss a lesson or an opportunity. And I love that what you did is you saw it. You didn't just get turned off by the idea that there are other larger companies that are in that space. You said, I have to learn it. Do you go through that sort of, here's the menu of what we can do with every seller, or do you discern kind of where they are and maybe this is an option for them?
It's a little bit case by case.
Yeah.
But again, the key is disclosure on letting people know, because when you're wholesaling, essentially what you're doing is you're buying or acquiring a property well under market value.
Yeah.
So you need them to understand that, hey, Mr. and Mr. Seller, if you put 20, 30 grand worth of work into this property, it could be worth 200,000.
Yeah.
I need you to know that. Is that something you would like to do? Is that something you would like help with? I can help you in that realm. I could plug you in with contractors. But what you'll do, what I'll run into a lot of times is that people, they don't want to put the 20, 30 grand in their house. They don't want to get it ready for market and get it retail and then sell it.
Sure.
So they'll say, you know what, Temp, I'll take 130,000 if you can give me that within the next 7 to 10 days.
Right.
And I'm done.
Yep.
And I don't have to worry about buyers coming through. I don't have to worry about repairs. So that's kind of how that works. But I guess to your question, I really try to disclose both options, where a lot of wholesalers, they almost want to prey on the naive. They want to prey on the seller not knowing, and they try to lock it up, and then the people are pinned down.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed some of these contracts I see people in. They're really predatory.
I don't know if you know Dan Sullivan was Strategic Coach. Here's his definition of selling. He says, selling is getting people intellectually engaged in a future result that's good for them, and getting them to emotionally to take action to achieve that result. That's exactly what you're doing. So in other words, if you only did the first half, if you got them to intellectually engaged in a future that's good for them, it's like, yeah, you know what, that's a really good idea. But then if you didn't do your job to help them emotionally connect to, that's what I should do, what are the next steps, how do we proceed, you wouldn't be doing your job.
Well, that's that logic and heart, you know, like
Totally.
the logic has to make sense. It has to logistically make sense for people to do whatever they're going to do.
Yeah.
And then us as salespeople, we need to help people understand the emotion behind it. And that's what we can use as a technique to help them get out of their own way and say, because if you go all logic, you're going to make some sales, you're going to connect with some people.
Sure.
When you both, that's when you really connect with people and you start solving problems.
I want to talk about the deals, right? I think you've helped us to understand sort of the broad brush concept of who you're dealing with, but I'd like to hear some examples. And then I'd like you to just talk through the deal a little bit, because I think one of the things people might be surprised about is how little of your own cash is required on these deals. How do people find themselves in a situation where wholesaling makes sense?
Great question. So it's a broad stroke question because there's so many variables and scenarios. Essentially, what I'm normally finding, so like I'm in negotiations on 5 properties right now, 2 of which the mother and father, elderly in their 90s, have passed, and now the kids have inherited the home. They need to liquidate it, sell it, but the home's in really bad shape. So I get a lot of that. You'll find people in life that are backed up into a corner financially, and they really need to tap into their equity, and they need it quickly.
Yep.
So you'll find some of that.
Yep.
You'll find people really behind on taxes.
Mm.
And then also you'll just find people that had a dream of being a landlord. They had a rental. They realized that that was a little tougher than they ever imagined. Being a landlord, evictions, bad tenants, whatever that is, I'll buy that problem all day for 60 cents on the dollar.
No doubt.
So there's all sorts of different ways. And it's just like building a big business when you tap into your database and your sphere. It's just letting people know that you're here to solve that problem. And then I usually get 5 to 10 addresses sent to me every day from other realtors or my network that say, hey, Temp, can you tell me what your offer would be on this house? And I always say, no problem. Let me put it together. I send them an offer. Please don't feel any obligation. But if this number works, let's move forward.
Hey, are you tired of getting rate shopped? Then do what 34% of America's best loan officers do. Stop quoting rates, start delivering a total cost analysis. This game-changing strategy will radically reduce rate shopping, and when you do get shopped, you'll win more. To learn more about this total cost analysis by Mortgage Coach, just email sales@mortgagecoach.com to request your personalized demo and get some rate shopping scripts.
Nice. What if you had to pull a number out of thin air? Is that how often do you connect the ball to the bat on those deals?
I'd say if you had 100 traditional people that had to sell their home, maybe 5 of them would go the route of a distressed situation or an under market value situation. Yeah. And I probably need to look at 20 addresses before I get a contract signed.
Okay. How much of your time does it take to look at a deal like that?
Well, you know me, I've built out systems and processes. So typically when I get an address like that, I have trained my executive assistant to do the initial analyzation of the deal. So pretty much I forward that over. She takes a look at the rough numbers. And if it's close, then I'll dive into the MLS, pull real comps, and see if it has legs.
Smart.
So we take a quick snapshot, look at it, and if it looks like it's close, then we'll dive deeper on it, and that's when I'll jump in, run real comps, and we just send off our offer.
Nice.
And I've learned not to offer too much, because if I offer too much and tie up the property and it doesn't work, it puts me in a bad spot. It wastes their time. It's just not a good look. So I just send them an offer that actually works for everybody, for me especially.
Yeah.
And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, I just move on to the next one.
Oh, good, dude. Tell us a little bit about the deal. How do you structure these deals?
We're going to put it under contract and let them, and again, disclosure is huge. So we got to let them know what our plan is. But we're going to put it under contract at their agreed price. So between me and the seller, So Bill, you have a rental property out here in Arizona. It's worth $250,000. It is in really bad shape. You just want out of it. So you agree to sell it to me for $160,000. Okay.
Yep.
So we have a contract, an A and B contract. I go, great. I'm going to give you that 160 in the next 10 days. Are you good with that? And are you good with me making a profit on this contract, whether that comes through assigning or flipping the home? But I guarantee you in 10 days, you're going to have your 160 as is, no repairs, no commission. Is that fair? Great. So now that I have that contract, I'm going to go to my pool of investors who are looking for a flip, that are looking for a buy and hold. And I'll say, hey guys, I have a really great property in Mesa, Arizona that would work. Here's the numbers, here's the metrics, and I'll sell it to you at $175,000. Right? So it's still, it's still $75,000 in equity if you put the work in.
Yeah.
So they say, great. So I assign that contract to them, and this C, like I call it AB, I'm A and B contract, me and you. C comes in and plugs in, so B to C, but I use C's money to perform on my A. So all I risked was whatever earnest money I put in the deal to tie up the contract, which is $1,000 up to, I'll put 5,000, 10,000 down. But really you can do it for about $1,000. Here's the tricky part. There's a lot of people doing this who don't have the secondary part to actually sell the deal and perform. So unfortunately they lock up people's deals and then they can't actually buy them. And on day 9 of the inspection period, they back out, and it's kind of a mess for everybody.
Got it.
Really bad for that seller because they're like, hey, and you're within the guidelines of the contract, so you can cancel and you have every right, but that's not really how you disclosed it to the seller, which is that's not a good look, right?
Sure.
So when I tie something up now, I want to make sure I can buy it, and in a lot of scenarios, with my track record now, I've been able to bring on quite a few investors who open up funding to me. So if I haven't sold something in my 10 days, I'll close on it with private money, and then I'll shop the deal. Like I've had to do a gap fund for a week or two while I get it sold. Right.
So cool, man. So I'm an agent and I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking, because you got to know, but there are people out there that sell 2, 3, 5 houses a month, but it's all cash flow. They live on cash flow, right? And they've never invested in their commodity. It happens all the time. So because you and I have had so many conversations about this, you're in a downsized home right now.
Yes,
right?
I am.
That's what this little house is. Yeah. As your business is growing. That's not what most people do, by the way, just for the record, right? That most people go the other direction. So you sold a BMW that was sucking cash out of your account because you loved the car, and you went, and if I recall, you bought the least expensive used Tesla in the state of Arizona.
It was the least expensive Tesla I could find, and the best decision I've ever made.
I love it, dude.
I will never own another car than that Tesla.
But the reason that I'm going into that is I want people to hear that are struggling a little bit with this idea of like, well, where I'm so busy, where am I going to find the time to do this? So what I kind of want them to hear from you as we wrap is, how did you make that division where you said, I'm going to have to extricate myself a little bit out of the traditional model to allow myself to be available for this others, and have team members who are also involved on the wholesale side?
To your point, so many people in our industry, and I've seen it, and I got caught up in it for a little bit, they want to look wealthy. They want to drive that BMW, but they're parking it at an apartment complex and paying $1,200 in rent.
Totally.
And their car payment's more than their apartment payment. And I'm not talking down on any, I mean, I started.
Totally get it.
I started with nothing.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted to look the part, and there are some benefits to faking it till you make it. But what I've learned is being anything that you're not is going to become exhausting. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to drive the car I actually like. I'm going to wear my little widow's peak with pride.
Nice.
If I don't like it, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But I cannot pretend to be anything that I'm not.
Yep.
So to that point, when it comes to money, I decided to quit spending it on things that show people I'm rich or wealthy.
Yeah.
And start spending it on things that would actually make a difference in the long run.
Nice.
So I own 8 properties now. I'm really trying to set myself in all of these properties we own at about 70% loan to value.
Great, man.
We have and they cash flow above my monthly debt. So I'm trying to set myself up, Coach, where God forbid we have a turn or I have a 6-month swing where the market turns and I got to readapt and pivot and figure out how to make money again.
Yep.
I can be nimble and I have income to cover me in the meantime. We are now in the cutest little mid-century modern house. My office is 5 houses down on the boulevard.
Yep.
I helped buy my parents a house 4 houses down. I own another little rental in the neighborhood. Like, I'm trying to structure my life. And you know what's crazy? All of these things I did are the same cost of that house I had with a resort-style backyard. Wow. I've never been doing better financially, and I've never been more restricted on my budget and my spending because I hear the horror stories from 2008, which I was not a part of. I was oblivious. I was selling women's shoes and had no idea.
Right.
I will not put my family's livelihood at risk in that way. So we try to live on about 20% of what we earn.
And I don't think this story is being told enough in this business. When I got into the real estate business 30 years ago and had dark hair like yours, exactly. I remember people saying then, if you're going to get in business, invest in your commodity. And only a few did. Most just roll through for cash flow, right? I need this many deals to pay these bills because I got all this stuff. And so if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get into your tribe and hang out with Temp a little bit?
I run the traditional team, Templeton Group. Shauna Slevin is the COO of that. She is unreal. She really kind of makes that all tick. Her and Scott Buchanan, lead agent Brandon Slevin. So I have those people there. If you want to connect on that end and you're looking to learn more about a traditional real estate team, Shauna at tgroupaz.com, Scott at tgroupaz.com, or Templeton at tgroupaz.com. The wholesaling investment arm is more of your speed, which is kind of where I really dive in deep. Definitely reach out to me. My personal cell phone's 480-823-5672. Call me. If you want to invest, I'm ready. And then Templeton at tgroupaz.com.
Awesome. Dude, you're a stud. It is a pleasure to walk beside you. I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you. I can't wait to see what you're going to do in the next 12 months.
Coach, I appreciate you. And I got to say real quick, you have changed my business. I was so, I'm restricting all my expenses. So I was afraid I spend a healthy amount of money to be coached by you. And it's my favorite debit that comes out of my account every month. And I'm like, hey, well worth it. I need it, right? And I grew up an athlete. Just calling you coach and having you mold me, it just feels so good. Like I still long for someone to direct me.
Totally get it, man. Totally get it. I love it. I've never been described as somebody's favorite debit. So thank you for that.
Hey, it's a big one, but I love it.
All right, brother. Have a great day, man. Thanks for this time.
All right, Coach.
See you, man.